Round 4 of the Six Nations is in the log. The full-time whistle has just gone at Twickenham. These are my immediate thoughts following the match. And let me know yours in the comments down below. I really appreciate you watching. I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers. And this is the result. 47 points to 24. Do you know the sweetest sound as an England fan was a Twickenham stadium that was a little bit bored in the last quarter of a match, feeling quite quiet, hearing the commentators on the telly refer to Twickenham as feeling a bit flat in the final quarter. That is manna from heaven for me, because I have been, like all England fans, been put through the ringer with all of our games going down to the wire, whether we're winning them by a point or losing them by a couple of points. And there's very few occasions when you can kind of switch off from the game because the result is already in the bag. So I am very happy that the game kind of fizzled out. I've been waiting for a slightly boring end to a match as an England fan, and it was a comfortable win for England. 47 points to 24. Your thoughts down below, like I say. Look, first and foremost, for the competition, this was a great result. This is no consolation for Italy, but Super Saturday is properly set up now. Bring it on. 4 games, I mean, technically 4 teams, I should say, can win the Six Nations Championship. But I mean, Scotland is just mathematically possible. It's not going to happen. They would have to beat France by, what, 50 odd points, and Ireland and England both lose their games. So, I mean, Scotland aren't going to win it. But the top 3 teams can. Ireland, who are sitting in 3rd place in the Six Nations currently, they play first next weekend against Italy away, and they can go top with a win. And then England can go top with a win in their game if they win away in Wales. And then it's all on the final game. France could have already won it, but most likely are going to have to go out at the Stade de France in Paris and win only the 2nd Six Nations Championship in the Fabien Galtier era at home to France in the 8 p.m. kickoff. This is as close as the Six Nations has got on Super Saturday to, what was it, 2015. That bonkers day when, again, I think the teams then that could win were England, Ireland and Wales. This time it's England, Ireland and France. I mean, France will likely end up winning the title, but I mean, Super Saturday is on, and I cannot wait for next weekend already. But of course, you know, Six Nations title aside, which France may well end up winning, England are still the lineal world champions. They have retained the Rayburn Shield. I mean, forget the actual World Cups. That's the one that everyone wants, the Rayburn Shield. They've defended it again. And Italy still, despite their efforts, cannot beat England. The one team in the Six Nations they have never beaten. And maybe it's appropriate that Guinness 0% is the sponsor of the Six Nations and was painted on the pitch for this game, because 0% is also Italy's win record against England. The curse remains. But it was a solid win for England. There were good tries. It was fairly comfortable in the end. They dominated the second half. Their set piece, scrum, maul, line out, breakdown. They won all of the fundamental key areas. Italy just cannot seem to find an 80-minute performance. They had flashes, they had moments. It was 21-17 at half-time. But Italy and falling away in the second half is becoming a bit of a trend. Is that just the depth of the players that they've got? They kept a few of their arguably first-choice players. And, I mean, players like Zuliani, who is a beast, and I would personally be very much considering starting. But so they had good players coming off the bench, but nonetheless, they weren't able to stem the tide in that second half. England, equally, good win, but they're still searching for an 80-minute performance. I think there is improvement in this England team, but there is lots to feel good about. Ollie Chesham is absolutely huge. I've been saying he's going to be on the British and Irish Lions tour for a while now, and I think he's just cemented his spot. He was an absolute animal. And Tom Curry as well. I love that guy. I was a big Tom Curry defender when he was getting lots of stick over the last little while, and Steve Borthwick has been vindicated in selecting him. Lots of people would have dropped him, cast him aside, said Tom Curry's time is done. He's been England's best player this Six Nations tournament, and he's an absolute machine. He always ends up looking battered, and you always fear for him when you're watching the game. He goes down regularly. You're like, oh no, not again. Maybe go off and have a rest, Tom. But just an absolute animal. And his brothers, I mean, how much more satisfying must it be for Tom Curry to be able to share the field and see your brother, your identical, genetically identical twin, who's been tearing it up in the Premiership, doing really well as well. Alex Mitchell, I thought, looked really good. Ollie Lawrence went off. That was one downer for England. 8 minutes in, Marcus Smith comes on and plays 72 minutes at fullback. Elliot Daly into centre. And Ben Earl at centre. We got a little glimpse at Ben Earl. Eddie Jones must have been saying, "See, I told you, Ben Earl centre, mate." And yeah, Eddie was right. We've seen Oscar Jegu and Ben Earl at centre this weekend. I'm here for the back row midfield converts. As for Italy, we saw the amazing and the average from a bunch of their players. Ange Capuozzo being a great example. Like there were moments where you're like, "What are you doing, Ange?" And then you see him doing things that make you go, "How did you do that, Ange?" Like incredible. Menoncello and Brex are just always great, and I hope Italy can keep building. They are a really, really good team. It hasn't been a good Six Nations Championship for them. Fortunately for them, they got the win against Wales. They've got a shot at home against Ireland. They've got nothing to lose, but it's that they haven't been able to kind of kick on from where they were a year ago. The conditions were perfect for Italy. 18 degrees and sunny in London, and Sergio Parise still wearing a winter coat, which tells you just how hot it gets in Italy versus England. But that was practically summer for us England fans. Jamie George, his 100th cap. How can you not love that man? And his brother, how much does Jamie George's brother look like him? They cut to him a few times during the coverage. Jamie George on 100th cap. Did Jamie George pick the song? I want to run out to a remix of Gangster's Paradise. I'm here for it. Jerusalem, I want that so badly to be England's national anthem. I mean, the Italy national anthem is awesome, and the players belting it out. There was only a couple of Italian players crying. I think, if you get to 3 or more Italian players with tears, you know you're in trouble. I saw 2 Italians crying and thought, well, we might be all right here today. But God save the king. I mean, I've had a lot of England fans in comments before saying, why do you always have to knock our national anthem? I watch the Six Nations and I see a Flower of Scotland in Edinburgh. Next weekend, England are going to hear Land of My Fathers with the Roof Shut in Cardiff, La Marseillaise in Paris, the Italian anthem in Rome, even the Irish anthems in Dublin. Just England, it's just such a shame. I just want us to have a curtain raiser to a game, and Jerusalem is that song for me. I think we could go from instantly having the worst national anthem, least inspiring national anthem, to one of the best instantly. But it won't be politically correct to do it. The powers that be won't do it, but I really wish they would. Anyway, before the game, of course, this is on ITV. And just a couple of things. Well done, ITV, for managing one of those emotional moments in the game properly. We saw yesterday in Dublin, the host broadcasters in Ireland absolutely butcher the moment when Peter O'Mahony left the field for the final time in Dublin. That should have been a moment where you see the crowds on their feet applauding. You see the face of Peter O'Mahony as he trudges off the field for the final time, maybe ever, but certainly on his home ground for the final time after an incredible career. And instead we got a close-up of Angus Gardner debating whether or not with the TMO, whether it was going to stay as a yellow card or a red card. They absolutely butchered that moment. ITV nailed it. Jamie George coming off the field for his 100th cap. And they did it perfectly, exactly how you want. And I know it sounds like a silly thing because the game on the field is the main thing, but this is the emotional stuff that we attach to. We get emotionally invested in these men who go out there and do battle for us. And so it's important to celebrate those moments. Also, another thing, I've said this before, it is a form of Stockholm syndrome, I think. I've gone from hating the Brian Habana Sage advert. Is a little bit slower to turn. I've gone from hating it to kind of loving it. And now a game is not complete unless I have Brian Habana. I'm kind of hoping that maybe on this video, you'll get a little bit of Brian Habana interrupting me at some point, telling you that the analysis showed his opponent was a little bit slower to turn. I had some people mentioning in the comments who they think he's talking about. It's about time, Brian. You fess up and tell us who was slower to turn. Some people suggesting it was Alassana Tuolangi for Samoa. Any advances on Alassana Tuolangi? Any other thoughts? Let me know. Anyway, for the actual rugby itself, England were kind of had hot spells and they had flat spells in the game. But the good thing was they made hay when the sun was shining. When it was going well, they actually converted and scored some points. And I actually think when you analyse this game, the difference between England against Italy and England against Scotland wasn't as drastic a difference as you would think in terms of how they played. Like England were fairly pragmatic against Italy. If they were in their own half, they would, for the most part, exit, get territory first, and then when they had territory, then they would go for it, which is what they tried against Scotland. It's just against Scotland they had no territory, and when they did try an attack, they just completely butchered it, whereas this time they did get territory, and then the ball was sticking, the handling was a bit crisper, and they actually were just much more accurate overall and scored some tries. A nice start from Tom Willis, really nice attack. But it was a game at half time, wasn't it? 21-17 half time, and there was a big moment when England was 7-0 up and on Italy's line, and Tommaso Menoncello, amazing player, comes up with a massive try-saving tackle on Tommy Freeman, and then turns the ball over. And then a moment later, was that the Ange Capowazzo try? Or Capowazzo, did he make the break and then set up the try? I forget who actually scored it, but that was effectively a 14-point swing for Italy, and just the brilliance of Tommaso Menoncello. And there were a couple of moments like that in the first half. Right at the end of the first half, Ross Vincent, massive bit of defence, having scored his try as well. And again, another reason I love ITV is they've got Nick Mullins on commentary, who described Ange Capowazzo when he made the break before putting in Ross Vincent. He described him as Capowazzo, the racing snake. I don't know where that came from, but I kind of love it. So yeah, it was 21-17 and Italy were in the game. They got that penalty right at the end of the half. Tommy Freeman scored a try, lovely nudge through from Elliot Daly, who I thought was really good for England, but awful defence from Italy. And this was they'd just done some brilliant attack and then kind of shot themselves in the foot. Maybe it was Ange Capowazzo that was slower to turn. And then Ollie Slightholme with a try as well. Can we just talk about Ollie Slightholme's hair? Has he lost a bet? I want someone to ask him in an interview. I know it's not the done thing. You're meant to ask about rugby stuff, but can someone in a post-match interview just ask Ollie Slightholme, what do you ask for when you go into the barbers? What do you say? Yeah, just kind of leave it sort of, I don't know, a bit at the back, but just cut it off here. And it looks like, you know, when you have a dice roll, forfeit. That's what it looks like. But I kind of love it. It's become his thing now. So yeah, second half comes along, and Marcus Smith, who I think that there were a few moments in that first half where you thought, oh, just that fullback position, it's not really him. But there was one moment in that second half, he put in a really big tackle, important tackle in defence, and then goes through and scores a try from the attack that resulted from that. In between those two Marcus Smith interventions, we had the prop idol himself, Will Stewart, with a bit of footwork that, I mean, you'll probably find that on an illicit website later, such as the rarity and excitement you get from seeing a prop giving some jinking steps. Will Stewart has been, he's going to go on the British and Irish Lions tour, and he could end up being a starting tight head prop. He's been excellent in this Six Nations, and that's one of the most pleasing things for me. England's nuts and bolts are getting there. Their scrum is solid and no longer an Achilles heel that England are going to be good for 2 or 3 scrum penalties against them and losing big scrums in big moments. That was the case in November, even against South Africa and New Zealand. And it's certainly pressed on and been the case now through this Six Nations. The line-out's really, really good. The maul was used brilliantly today. And it was from a maul that Tom Curry got his try. And again, I've already talked about how much I love Tom Curry. What a player. And then, what was it? Ollie Slightholme and Ben Earl with another try at the death. A try for Menoncello in and amongst that. Yeah, so I think Italy will be disappointed. They're a really good rugby team. They've got lots of good players. but it has been a disappointing competition for them. And I think most disappointing is that they've shown in patches what they're capable of. England also, you have to say, probably showed in patches what they're capable of in this match. It's just their patches were much, much more productive than Italy's, and they scored more points. And there was just I don't think England turned the attacking dial up too much. Like, I don't actually think they turned the attacking dial right down against Scotland. I think Scotland just tactically pinned England in their half in that first half, so England couldn't attack. And then when they did try in the second half, it was just not good. I just think that there was maybe a little tweak of 1 or 2 points on the scale that England dialed it up. And some of those passes stuck. Alex Mitchell had a little bit more time, and I thought caused some havoc. So yeah, I'm happy. And to come back round to where I started, I'm really happy that the last 20 minutes of that match was really quite boring to watch. I've been waiting for that, rather than a nail biter where we can win or lose in the final moments of a game. Some thoughts anyway, immediately following the game. Like I say, just splurging them out straight onto the channel, and I appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.